Hey guys, welcome back to Dish It with Des. This week we will be talking about the latest Vanderpump Rules episode, Mistress in Distress.
But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you so much for listening to our new podcast. We really enjoy making it, and I really hope you guys enjoy listening to it. So if you do, you got to let us know. Make sure you subscribe or follow us on whatever platform you're listening on. And don't forget to hit that like button if you like everything that we're saying. And you know what? If you don't enjoy it, just go ahead and hit the dislike button because that's cool too. And everybody is entitled to their opinion. That's just what we give here on Dish It with Des, are our opinions.
All right, so I am Desiree, and you can hear that Steve is here with me.
Hear me, am. All right, so let's get into this episode.
Yes.
So, like we said, it is called Mistress in Distress.
And we'll get into why it's called that.
Oh, yeah. So, first off, it gets started. Everybody's getting back from the trip, from Sheena's wedding. The one scene that really stuck out to me was when Katie and Schwartz were trading off the dogs. I don't know if they were trading them off or he was just giving them to
No,
her.
they share custody of the dogs.
Oh,
And this is so awkward because obviously what went down in Mexico was like Katie found out that Schwartz and Raquel had this makeout and she wants nothing to do with him at this point. So like Schwartz was being Schwartz, trying to like tell her about the restaurant and like that it's clusterfuck. And she's like, that sounds awful. Bye. And like just leaves. And I just thought that was funny. I'm not a big Katie fan, but like in this moment, I loved her and I thought it was funny because she just was like not engaging, not amused. So yeah, that's the situation there. They're still sharing. Remember, we kind of talked about this in a previous one where I was like, I feel like you just have to cut ties, like sharing custody of a dog. Like if it's a child, that's one thing.
yeah.
But I feel like in a breakup, like animals, it sucks so bad, but like somebody has to be the one to be like, you know what, like they can stay with you. I would not be like continuing to have to see an ex over an animal.
Right.
And I would keep the animal. I would just be like, you're screwed. Like if I was the one who was attached, like, oh well.
And like, so Tom he still thinks that like he did nothing wrong. And I guess he decides to call Sandoval. And it's funny because Sandoval is actually in the middle of filming a confessional for the episode and his phone rings.
And they're like, we can take a break. You can
Yeah.
answer it. And he's like telling him how Katie like was pretty much in and out. And I understand like why she's upset. Like that conversation was kind of ongoing in this episode. It got brought up again later on and stuff.
Right.
And like, you know, I was advocating in the beginning for Schwartz and Raquel. I loved this. And now that we know that that was never going to be a thing, I do have a lot of empathy for Katie because I felt like she kind of got caught in the crossfire of this. Like it was one thing if there was a possibility that Schwartz and Raquel were going to maybe be something because at this point in their lives, they're both single. But now that we know that she was actually hooking up with Sandoval, it makes it even more of a shitty situation that they allowed Katie to get this hurt by something that was never going to turn into anything.
Yeah.
And you know, she does state that it was like a mutual agreement between them
She
that they
says it
weren't
multiple
going to
times.
hook up with anybody in the friend group. So, you know, it was fine when we thought maybe there was a thing going on, but like I do get where she's coming from. If this was some sort of little pact that they made so that they didn't get more hurt in the situation, like it is kind of shitty. And especially since we know that Sandoval was pressuring him to make out with her and there was no rhyme or reason for it.
Right.
Wasn't like he was just pushing his buddy, you know, to like go out and like live a single
Yeah.
life.
No, there was
You know what I
definitely
mean?
another reason behind
Yeah.
it.
Shitty.
So after that, the boys are at Schwartz and Sandy's, and by the
Got
boys,
heated
I
here.
mean Tom and Tom. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I thought it was funny because you know they're sitting there trying to figure out when they're gonna open, and
Well,
Brett.
Brett seems like he has his shit together. I mean, this is going to be like what the GM of the restaurant, right? So he's like, he comes back at them like in this moment. And I liked him for it
Yeah.
because he was standing up for like what they did. So just explain like what happened while they were gone.
So when he comes over, he sits and like wants to talk with him about trying to get this restaurant open, and he's basically like, yeah. So let me tell you what happened while you were gone. well, we fired the kitchen manager.
Didn't they fire the chef too? Like they said the
Well,
chef just wasn't able to like.
it was the same person. I think the kitchen
Okay.
manager was like
Yeah,
their
they said
head
he just
chef.
wasn't up to par. Like he just was
No,
not executing the way that they needed it done. And in that, with that,
the whole
the whole
staff,
kitchen staff is gone.
everybody left.
And Tom Sandoval is like bugging, and he's like, if we don't get this open, like we are going to lose all of this.
Now, all of this, he said in this episode that they're $1 million in right
Yes.
now. So, like, that is what is on the table that they can lose.
And I feel like this was an interesting episode with this moment. And then, like, later on, we're going to talk about when they go to Lisa's house. But, like, even later on, Schwartz is kind of calling Sandoval out for not putting in the effort that needs. So
I love
Sandoval's
that
like,
part. Well,
Sandoval just keeps saying, we need to get this open. We need to get this open. And it's like, I feel like he hasn't been doing anything to do it, and he's just complaining about it. But that is
But that
typical
is
Sandoval, like acting like he's doing all this stuff. He's really not doing anything and playing martyr. That's
Yeah.
not out of character for him. And I feel like Schwartz is going to have a goddamn mental breakdown. It feels like it's because this is a thing too. You got to understand, like Schwartz doesn't come from anything at all. Like his family is not like a family with money.
right. Okay.
So I feel like his mindset is a little bit different than Sandoval's. Like Sandoval's family obviously is better off financially because his mom invested into this business for them. So yeah, she invested like her retirement
Oh, shit.
into this. So I feel like that's where the train of thought is like kind of at a separation with them because Sandoval is a little bit flashier and obviously goes hard when it comes to spending money. So for him to just keep spending money to make something look absolutely perfect, that's him. But with Schwartz, I think he's a little bit more frugal. He's not as flashy, and it makes sense with their backgrounds why Schwartz is probably bugging so hard about like the amount of money that is at stake here because he doesn't come from money.
Right.
So he's probably very uncomfortable with the amount of money that's been put into this and not knowing if it's going to be a return. I also do think that Schwartz, I read this somewhere, or maybe he said it on the show a while, like a long, long time ago, that he actually helps his family out financially.
Oh.
I think he's from Florida. I think he sends money back home. He has triplet younger brothers. And I think that he helps his family out.
Well, that's
so,
a stand-up thing to do.
yeah, so I feel like for him it's a little bit different because it's not just him. I think that he has this sense of obligation to help his family, where Sandoval's in a different position. His family's obviously a little bit better off financially, where they're able to help him.
Right.
So I do think that that's where the disconnect with when it comes to money and priorities comes from.
Yeah. So this conversation, I mean, it did end on a good note. Like they all were laughing
They
and
all
joking.
like put their hands. They had like this handshake, the hand thing they do at the
Yeah.
end, and they did do that. Like they all laughed after they had this freak out. But I did like to see Brett come back at him, like then like do something about it. You know, like get in here and work. And that's the thing that I don't understand either. Is like they're even saying that the bar menu is not complete, and it's like Sandoval. All he does is talk about how he's the best bartender ever. Like when Ariana wanted a cocktail book, he wanted to be a part of it, and she was like, "I want it to be my thing." So, like,
Good for her.
get back there and sling drinks, bro. You know
Yeah.
what you're doing now. Open it up and start doing it.
Well, they were talking about opening it up with potato chips and like French fries.
And, like, yeah, okay,
And
so
you know what? Maybe
start
you
with
have to.
appetizers. Start
Yeah.
with 5 really good appetizers and just get the doors open and have some really good drinks since that's your thing. Get the drink menu
People
on
are going to be
point.
coming there for the drinks, and
Some
then
places,
let's get
like,
the
barely
food
even
later
serve
on.
food.
True.
You know what I mean? Like some restaurants are known to be more of like a lounge. There's not really food there, right? They're known for their cocktails. So do it, Sandoval, since you're the cocktail genius.
Yeah. So after this one, Katie was going over to Sandoval and Ariana's house.
This was so awkward.
was.
Oh, I hated this. And with these moments with Ariana, sometimes it's a hard thing for me to digest.
It is because like the way that things are said, and I don't know, it's just
So she wanted
it's
to.
uncomfortable.
She was bringing over some like ingredients for sandwiches and stuff, right? And they were gonna like make some sandwiches, which I love. And it seems like they have their shit together. Like they seem further along in their business venture than the Toms do.
Oh yeah, they're definitely gonna have their sandwich shop open
Yeah.
before The bar.
And did you notice it? Sandoval like kind of says that like he's a little bit envious of Ariana and Katie
Yeah,
because of the restaurant situation.
he
He said it's a
definitely
much
said
smaller
that.
restaurant. There's not so much like going on. Like it's not, this is gonna be a sandwich shop, so you don't need like bar and servers and all this stuff. And he's like, not. He doesn't want to say he's jealous. It seems like he's jealous. Let's just be real. He seems jealous, but he changes that narrative and says that he's just envious of like how simple their business
Right. And
is.
how cheap their rent is or whatever. Like, yeah, he
But like you could have had that too, but you needed all this stuff. You needed all these things like in your restaurant to make it a vibe. Like you could have kept it simple. You chose not to.
right.
You focused so much on all these details, but you didn't focus on the food and drinks, which is mainly why people are coming.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about like your like plants hanging from the ceiling. You know what I mean? And nobody cares about like your velvet like couch. Get the food together. Like
Yeah.
reality, like yeah, the vibe is cool, like, and that's important to me. I like a good ambiance, but like you can't have a good ambiance and nothing else. You can't have like your doors not open because you don't have food and drinks.
Yeah, like I've been in the restaurant industry for
Yeah, you
20
have a lot of
years.
experience with this.
And like you're not going to open up a restaurant and not have a menu
Based
or
off what
drinks.
couches you wanted to pick out.
Yeah,
Like
like
that's not
it's
the
not going to
priority.
be a restaurant designed off of aesthetic. Like, oh, we want it to look like this. And then like last minute, oh yeah, you know what? We should probably have some food and drinks too, huh?
Right.
That's
To
just
me
they're backwards.
it would be menu, then it would be like plates, silverware, cups, like that type of thing. Like what vibe do I want the stuff to be served in?
Right. Like
And then the restaurant
you
aesthetics.
should have a menu or a basic idea before you
Right.
even
Like
have a building.
people are like, okay, I want to open up a Mexican restaurant. That's like
Yeah.
what they know from the start. Like we haven't even really heard like what is Schwartz and Sandy's like food gonna be? What is the vibe gonna be? Like, is it going to be American food? Is it gonna be French food? Is it going to be
Well,
like upscale bar food? We have no idea.
now that there's no chef, nobody knows.
You know what I mean, though? Like, if
gonna be
people are like, "Oh,
fucking
I want to
potato
open up a
chips.
restaurant," okay, I want to open up an Italian restaurant, and then you decide like what you're gonna make it look like, right? Like, at least what type of cuisine you're gonna be serving. I would think.
You would think.
So anyway, let's dig into this conversation between Sandoval, Ariana, and Katie. The makeout comes up
Of course
yet
it
again.
does.
And Sandoval is trying to justify, which makes all the sense in the world because, of course, he wants to deflect off of himself.
It's the same thing he kept saying. He
Yeah, like
keeps
there's
saying,
nothing wrong with it. These are two single
Yeah.
people just living their lives, and Katie calls her a whore, and Ariana sticks up for her.
and so does Tom.
Yeah, Ariana's like, well, she's not a whore because she's not getting paid for services, and Katie says, well, she should be if that's what she's gonna like be doing. Maybe she should be getting paid because she's good at that. And I don't disagree. Listen, if it was me, I'd probably be calling her a whore too, especially with what we know now. But it's hard to see Ariana stick up for her because she continuously is sticking up for Raquel.
Yeah.
And it's just tough. And Sandoval, anytime Raquel is brought up, he has this devious look to him. It's reminding me of the old Jax Taylor days when like Stassi would confront him about like hooking up with Kristen, and he would get this evil look to him, like pompous, like he's not doing anything wrong.
Yeah,
Like,
I
it's a
definitely see
very
it.
similar evil, almost like the Joker.
Like a little smirk almost.
Yes, like a devious smile. You know what I mean? We saw it later on. We'll get into that when they're at the restaurant with
Oh,
Lisa
yeah.
and Raquel. The same look on his face between this scene and that scene. Like I'm noticing, and then again later on, the same look between Katie and him at the end. The same every time with these interactions, he has this same devious look to him. And I noticed, and I just said previously, I've been wanting to see a lot of Sandoval to kind of pick apart the vibes, and we haven't seen him much in the past couple episodes. He's been really laying low. Sandoval was very much the forefront
Right.
of this episode.
Yeah,
And
now
there was
we're-
a lot to see.
Now
And
we're
I
seeing him
noticed
a
he
lot.
had the lightning bolt necklace on. I think it was at Schwartz and Sandy's, wasn't it? With Brett. I think he
Ooh,
had it on
I didn't notice
there.
that.
Yeah, he did not have it on in this moment
No.
with Katie and Ariana.
I was looking
He
for
had it on later on when they're at Sir, when they're talking to Raquel and Lisa. He has it on.
That's
there.
the exact next scene that we're going to get
Yep.
into.
I didn't see Raquel with it, though. I was looking, and I haven't seen her with it on.
Well, she was working.
So I'm thinking maybe she wasn't
if
wearing.
If she did have it on, it was
might
probably
have been
under her shirt.
maybe it was tucked.
But this was a very awkward conversation that happened. I mean, the whole episode had a lot of very awkward moments in it.
I don't want to call it awkward, uncomfortable. Especially with the background information.
Well, and also, so all right, so let me play out the scene for you. So
go
like
for it.
Sandoval and Schwartz, they're hanging out at Sir. I don't know if they're meeting Lisa or she was there and they just kind of sit down.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. It looked like
couldn't really tell.
It looked like they were surprised to see her.
But they are hanging out talking to Lisa, and then it gets weird because Raquel comes up and is ready to take their order. So Lisa's asking her about the kiss with Schwartz.
She sits down.
She does.
Between the Toms.
They made her.
Yes.
But before that, Schwartzy gives her the old high five.
Yes.
And he's being super awkward.
Yeah, he's so awkward.
And then she's being super standoffish, and Sandoval's like, "No, come on, sit." And she sits in between them. This scene was
very telling.
And it was it was super weird.
Well, just because Schwartz obviously knows he crossed the boundary with Katie, and now I feel like he realizes that, and you can see him being standoffish and trying to distance himself from the situation because it's caused him a lot of drama, and Sandoval is just welcoming that drama right in. It's very, very telling.
So Lisa's kind of confused about the whole situation.
She's asking about what happened and whatever.
And then,
Sandoval just says it, right? He just says Katie called her a whore, and you can tell she gets teary-eyed. She's upset. And she explains to Lisa, she's like, I didn't realize making out would make you a whore,
And it doesn't.
Well, there's a thing called a makeout whore. That's why that terminology was invented, I feel, because people used to say whore and you automatically assume these people are sleeping together. But that's why I think people came up with this term makeout whore, because it makes it clear that you're not doing anything more than that. And some people and Schwartz is known for being a little bit of a makeout whore. He's cheated on Katie several times where it has just been makeouts, but he's known for being that.
She has mentioned that he has stuck his tongue in places it shouldn't have been multiple times.
Yes. So Raquel's visibly upset, and she when she gets up and walks away, the energy with Sandoval was so eerie because he
looks up and walked to the side.
Yes, and he looks so upset and devastated, but it's also just it seems so eerie the way he's acting.
It's almost like it's leading up to something.
Yes. It feels a little set up, this scene.
I guess. Andy said it's not nothing.
They're saying it's not, but this scene to me felt planted.
Right.
I don't know. It seemed like it didn't really fit in with anything else in this episode. Why were the Toms just at Sir? It was weird. I don't know. And this scene felt planted, and I think it was planted in order to let Raquel know that Katie said this about her.
Right.
And also to show this dynamic between the Toms and Raquel. And this is where we see the shift.
Mm-hmm.
This episode is where you completely see it. And when we get into a scene at the end, it is foreshadowing. So this was very Raquel and Schwartz heavy for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And now this was the episode that I clearly felt the shift in the air, where you can see Schwartz is very standoffish now, and it's getting very Sandoval centered.
I definitely see that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move forward.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be going to, I think they were at Lala's house.
Yeah, Lala's birthday, and they're talking about.
Well, they're talking about her birthday and
it was
what
Lala's
because
she made a little charcuterie, and
they
were all happy about it.
That was actually a really nice looking charcuterie that they had.
Yeah, so it's Allie's there too, right?
Yeah, it was weird. She was kind of the one that you wouldn't expect to be there.
I feel because this little group, Katie, Lala, Christina, hate Raquel so much right now. So I feel they're being very welcoming to Allie because it's probably they want that ally on their side.
And that kind of all started at the wedding.
Yeah, because they
left the hibachi.
James and Allie went to dinner with them. And then they were in their room too when they found out about the makeout. And I feel like there's a little bit of an alliance right now between Katie and James.
The exact word I was thinking
Yes,
of.
and it's, you know what? And I like it. I'm going to like put this out there even though I don't love Katie. I hope I actually like get to like Katie. That was something before I get into this alliance thing that I think is going on. We've only ever seen Katie with Schwartz, right? Like when this show came on, it was Katie and Schwartz were together, Kristen and Sandoval were together, and Jax and Stassi. And that's kind of how the show started.
Yeah.
We've never seen Katie, like, you know, we've
Like
seen
single
Stassi
Katie.
now not with Jax. We've seen Kristen not with Sandoval. And we've never seen Katie and Schwartz not together. And I feel like they did have a little bit of a toxic relationship. So I'm wondering, and I'm actually hoping that maybe I will begin to like her. Maybe we will see a different side to her. Now that
Yeah.
and now that they're like not really friends after this situation, I would like to see her come into her own, not being associated with Schwartz.
Right.
So getting into that, I do think that there's a little bit of a partnership now between James and Katie. And a few seasons back when he was with Raquel and him and Lala were really close and he was drinking a lot and he was kind of unhinged. There was that time where he showed up with Lala. I remember like they were being so douchey and they were like, see, none of you are working on your summer bodies. And they were kind of directing it towards Katie at the time. So there was a quite a long time back then where Katie and James absolutely hated each other.
Yeah, he went in on her. What was that, after Pride? When he was
I forget, but he
called
was
her fat,
calling
like
her
in the back
so
of the parking lot.
ugly and like all, you know, and
Yeah.
he was not very nice to her back then.
I think it was after a Pride
Yeah, it was
parade.
several times.
Yeah,
it was for
few.
sure several times. So I actually don't hate seeing Katie and James having more of a friendship. And I don't dislike it. And I feel like they kind of are going through the same thing right now. And it's okay. Like it's probably good for them to have a friendship where they can talk about the Raquel and Schwartz thing and, you know.
Kind
and
of
then,
give each other a little bit of a comfort.
yeah, and also like leading up to what we know is going to happen. You know, I think that James and Katie really stepping up and rallying around Ariana also because of what just happened to them.
Yeah.
You know, they're very empathetic probably because they experienced it too.
So the one thing that happened at this little get together that I think was really the only reason they had this scene in there.
Yeah.
Was
Again,
everybody was asking
kind of a random scene.
Yeah, who are you bringing to the party? Who's going? Katie drops the bomb that she's bringing a new man
that she's kind of been hanging out with. So she
Yeah.
said it definitely started off as like just a hookup.
Yeah.
But she said she actually likes him. Dude's weird though.
Satchel.
His name is Satchel.
I get it. He was named after, what did she say? Satchel Paige or something?
I don't even know who that is.
I really don't either. Drop a comment if you know who Satchel Paige is without Googling it.
Yeah, don't Google it. But yeah, we see him later on and he's not, I don't know. Katie's not like that cute either, but I don't know.
I'll give my thoughts later on.
It just wasn't what I was expecting. You know when they were in Vegas and she was talking to that guy who looked like a tourist at the bar?
Yes.
I was like, he's perfect for her. Like vibe wise, he felt perfect. This guy doesn't feel like he fits, but you know, we'll get into that later.
Yeah. So after this, the Toms are over at Lisa's house.
This was heartbreaking for me
a sad scene.
because her little mini horse or mini pony Rose died, and that was the younger one.
Yeah.
So she wanted to rescue one, and I think it had a baby or there was a baby with it, and she ended up getting both. And this was the baby that died.
Yeah.
Like it was 6 years old at the time, but still young.
Yeah, she said it was young.
And Ken, this scene, like she said, she wasn't acting right, and Ken like hurried up and was getting her to the vet, and then she passed away like moments before he got there.
Yeah.
And we all know how much Lisa loves not just her animals, but every animal. She's very big in like the Yulin Dog Festival and trying to get that to end in China, and she has Vanderpump dogs. So, and I'm very attached to my animals as well. I get very heartbroken over things that have to do with animals. So I have to say I got teary-eyed when this came on.
I didn't, but I could imagine that you did.
Yes, because it just was sad. So it looked like the Toms were coming over. They had flowers, so I'm guessing they were coming over just to like pay their respects. And it went south very quickly.
I mean, they were definitely there to pay their respects, but they were also there to talk about what their plan was moving forward.
I don't think that's what the intentions were.
No?
I truly think that they were supposed to be going over there just to like give her flowers and say I'm sorry. And then I think she brought up the restaurant not knowing the way that this conversation was going to end up.
Yeah, so it got
They
very
like,
heated.
yeah, they like have a little beef with each other in this moment.
I
And
loved every minute of
I
it.
did too, because Sandoval steamrolls Schwartz all the time. He always has. And Schwartz was coming at him a little bit, and he was like, your priorities have not been straight, and you've been just going to band practice and doing this and doing that, and you're not helping. You haven't been there.
Yep.
And I've been saying this all along, that I feel like they've been complacent, and I don't feel like they've been. And the thing is, Schwartz is not in the restaurant industry. Remember when he went to Pump and tried to bartend like one
Oh,
night
he
and
was
had a whole
horrible.
entire panic attack and couldn't bartend? So the reality is, Schwartz is not the one with the restaurant experience. He probably has great ideas, but Sandoval is the one with more food and bev experience here.
Right.
So if he has not been helping, that makes a lot of sense. And Schwartz is probably walking around like he doesn't even know what to do,
Yeah.
because he doesn't. He's the wingman. That's what he is. He's
So
the face.
it was just hilarious to me, and to see Schwartz that mad, like
I've never
Sandoval's
seen him like that, I don't think.
he's flipping out. We need to get open. We need to get open. And then Schwartz just tells him, he's like,
And he tells him, you yelling the way you are right now isn't productive, and
No.
it's not going to get anything open. You can't just keep yelling that you want it to open and not doing it. And he mentions like you're getting your nails
Yeah,
done.
he calls him out. He's like, your actions don't back anything up. What did he say? You huff and puff, and your actions don't back anything up, for the effort that you're putting out. And then he gives an example, and he's like, well, for example, we had to submit these menus, and the day that they were supposed to be submitted, you're out getting your nails done. And then you have a band practice.
Yeah, and this
and
idiot.
then call him at midnight talking about he's been so busy I couldn't get it done.
Yeah, and this idiot, Sandoval, in his confessional says something like, well, I don't think Schwartz wants me walking around with chipped fingernails. What?
Like, nobody cares about your stupid fingernails, dude.
What in the world is happening where that is what his priority is? I am so confused, because as a female, I'm telling you right now, I will walk around with chipped fingernails all day long to get work done.
Yeah, I don't know. It's his image that he's always so worried about.
Yeah, but the image is so skeezy. He's like sweaty, skeezy porn star look. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never thought he had the best image. You know what's interesting too? I've been wanting to say this and I haven't been able to. I went on Netflix because they put up the very early episodes of The Hills. I was a big Laguna Beach fan, big Hills fan back in the day. And I was watching Lauren on a modeling shoot. You guys have to go watch. I will have to figure out which episode it was. But Sandoval was on it.
Yeah.
He was one of the models coming for like this swimwear shoot or whatever. And I paused it and took a screen. I sent it to you. Remember,
Yep.
you were at work and I was like, oh my God, look at Sandoval. Like back in the day. It was just so interesting. So I just wanted to drop that in there, because now that we have all this reality TV, we go back and we watch some of these original like reality TV shows that were like they started reality TV back then,
Yeah.
And it was just so funny to see people that I recognized.
Yeah, he was there
Yeah.
trying to get his
He was there for a modeling gig. Anyway, little side note, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. So next scene, again, very uncomfortable and weird to watch. So we're back
Yeah.
at Tom and Ariana's
This
house.
sucked.
And she's talking about him doing a deposit. Now that she's not talking about money, she's talking about sperm.
Yeah, so she froze her eggs a while back, and we all not we all know, I don't want to say that, but most females, because I feel like fertility is such a big topic nowadays, and there's so many things that, people are doing so that we don't feel like we have this biological clock like ticking at our doorstep. So she froze her eggs a while back, but if you are not aware, it's apparently better to freeze embryos
Right.
over eggs. There's more of a chance of them surviving and working.
Yeah, it has better
So
viability.
she wants to turn them into embryos, and I'm wondering if they ever did this.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because he's saying and he says
I
in
mean,
a
she
confessional.
never wanted to have kids anyway, so like even if he did fertilize these eggs, she's probably
But
just
then,
like,
all right,
burn them.
but what happens? All right, so if you have eggs frozen, they're your eggs. So like the guy has no say in what you do with them.
Right.
If it's embryos, does the guy have a say?
I don't know. Depends on the situation. Maybe he has to sign off. I'm sure there's paperwork and all sorts
And
of
also,
stuff.
I hope she didn't turn all of them into embryos.
Yeah, I don't know. And if she did,
It's
Oh
time to
well.
freeze some more eggs
Yeah.
that are not with Sandoval.
So that was just an
It
interesting.
was really hard to watch. And also, I know that I still never watched this Howie Mandel thing, but from what I've read, Sandoval was saying that every time he tried to break up with her, then she would get like really nice to him and say like, well, maybe I do want to get married one day and whatever. And I was kind of wondering if this scene was a piggyback off of a fight
Well, you
where
could
she
kind of
was
see some of the things that he was saying.
that
It
he said he
kind of
feels like she gets annoyed with him all the
yeah.
time
It
and
seemed like it was about to be a fight.
I think it was a piggyback off of one. I'm going to
Okay.
assume that based off what he said, where he would like try to break up with her and then she wouldn't want to break up and then she would say things like, well, maybe I do want to get married and have kids one day. So I'm wondering if they had some sort of explosive blowout and then this embryo topic like came back up because it happened in a last reunion where she said that she wanted to turn them into embryos and he was like, what, when? Like I would have gone and done that like if I knew that. And she was like, I told you that. And he was like, well, then I need to get on that.
And that
And then
was
he still
still
never
last season.
did. So I don't know. And
Hopefully he
listen,
didn't.
not that I'm a fan of Sandoval, but if they've been having issues, I kind of understand why he wouldn't be running to go turn these into embryos.
Yeah.
Especially if he knows what the hell he's doing behind the scenes.
And from his story, like that they were not really in a good spot in a relationship. They were kind of like coexisting in this house, living their own lives.
Yeah,
So like
that
if that
happens
is
sometimes
true,
though, and that doesn't mean you're broken up.
no, but
And that
he
doesn't mean you have
was
an affair.
in the space where he wanted to be.
Right. And that's why I think that maybe he was not running out to turn them into embryos. And I'm just wondering, like, if that ever happened.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever find out.
I know.
So after this scene, James and Allie are getting ready for Lala's party, and Allie tells him that she kind of started something the other night.
Yeah. So
Um,
now we know where this information came from.
Yeah, so she
Allie was the
mentioned
one.
it to all the other girls that she saw Sandoval and Raquel at the Abbey at 1 a.m. dancing
Dancing
together.
like closely together. And she said that if it were her, she would be uncomfortable with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's there without his girlfriend.
And that's what she was thinking, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
well, where is Ariana? You know what I mean? And so, and this is what I kind of don't understand either. Like, even if it wasn't Allie, like, you are somewhat of a celebrity. So, like, you don't think someone's going to see you?
Well,
And
but
do you think that
this
people wouldn't think
relationship,
anything of it because it's like another cast member? But, like,
no,
if you're dancing closely together, it's like people are going to speculate.
it is, but Tom has this quote, air quote, open relationship. So
I
he
think
always
that
kind of thinks he can fall back on this.
No, but Ariana has said over and over again they 100% do not have an open relationship.
Uh,
I'm also wondering if that was just Sandoval trying to push that narrative so that he
He could
didn't
do what he
look
wants.
like he was doing something wrong.
Right.
I don't think on Ariana's end it was ever like she wanted an open relationship.
Yeah.
And I think it was Sandoval maybe pushing that because like he said on that podcast that they kind of have a brand. Like the Tom and
Yeah.
Ariana are kind of a brand now. So maybe he was pushing to have an open relationship. Like, hey, like we're good together brand wise, but like I want to hook up with other people. And I don't think Ariana was into it.
Probably not.
So that's just my assumption where this term came from and why there's always this conflict of some people saying that they have an open relationship and Ariana saying they don't. Because James said that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like
he
it
had
gets kind of
mentioned it, too.
awkward like if you have like an open relationship, like you don't really know where the boundaries are, I guess. I don't know. Like but I don't think it was both of them.
Yeah. So this little tidbit of information will come up later on.
Yep.
But so Sheena and Brock are over at Raquel's place.
No, I think Raquel's at theirs.
Oh, okay. So that was yeah, that's right.
I think that
no,
was her spot. No, was it hers?
I'm trying to picture and they walked in the door together, and
Oh,
yeah,
right. And
they walked in the
yep,
door.
you're right, because her dog was there.
And I had to relive that moment in my mind and watch my boy Brock
Yeah.
walking through the door. I kind of really like.
I
Brock.
like Brock a lot, feeling Brock.
So they're hanging out over there,
And they're talking about Oliver.
Talking about Oliver from Vegas.
Yeah, so Raquel made out with him when they were in Vegas, and Lala seemed a little jealous. And then I guess he's saying he was separated at the time, and his wife is saying they were not. And she went on social media
And
and was kind of
started.
calling out like Oliver for apparently hooking up with a lot of people and
Yeah.
saying they're separated and they're not. And she like called out Raquel. So Raquel was getting like a lot of hate on the internet and being called a mistress and all these things. And that whole like kind of end of this episode is riding on this mistress
Right.
thing because Lala's having a field day with it.
Oh, she's loving it.
But she says like that Oliver's in town and they're supposed to be going on a date and she doesn't like
Yeah.
know what to do now. And Brock like just says like maybe like just ask her and Sheena's like yeah like she's gonna respond to you like if you just ask. And I wasn't expecting this at all, dude. Raquel calls her,
Yeah.
calls the wife, and you don't hear any of the conversation. You can see her on the phone, you can see Raquel's part of the conversation, but you don't hear hers. So I'm guessing maybe there wasn't consent to play what she had to say. Maybe she was
Right.
okay with hearing what Raquel was saying, but she didn't want her. So Raquel finds out that there was a lot going on and that apparently he went home like that night that he made out with Raquel. Apparently he went home and like slept with his wife.
Yeah.
So awkward. And Sheena says like, because she's like, I don't know what to do. Like I'm supposed to be going on a date. And Sheena's like, well, I would because I think you need to confront him in person about it. Like I
Yep.
agree with that too. And I actually liked this moment with Brock and Sheena, like telling her like, why don't just ask her like, and don't like if she's calling you out online, like, you have to just go off the information you were given, right? If he said he was separated and you thought he was, like it sucks, but it's not really on you. It sucks that you're drug into it.
Right.
And Sheena's been through this before, right? Sheena was hooking up
Sheena's
with
been
Eddie
through
Cibrian
it.
when he was with Brandy. And honestly, Vanderpump Rules started off of Sheena pretty much. So like they all have Sheena to thank because there was a moment in Real Housewives of Beverly Hills because Lisa Vanderpump and Brandy were good friends at the time. Sheena worked for Lisa Vanderpump and it was kind of like an awkward thing where like sometimes Lisa would have bartenders or servers come and Brandy would always say, I do not want Sheena at any event that I'm at. So Lisa kind of pushed her to maybe go have a conversation with Sheena. We saw it on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
She sat down with Sheena. Next thing you know, there's a show called Vanderpump Rules. And I felt like that was the moment that tied that together. The Sheena Mistress moment.
Yeah. So, what are we talking about? Oh, the one thing that stood out to me,
What are we talking about?
the one thing that stood out to me in this before we switch into the next episode is Raquel, when she's talking about this, she's like, oh, I just hate to be in this position. And here we are foreshadowing a little bit like, you're in this position now. Ooh, honey, just wait. Just wait.
But this
it gets
position
worse.
with Sandoval was like already happening as well.
Right.
And that's, this was because I said, I've been trying to separate in episodes like the information that I know. And I'm trying to like take Raquel in previous episodes. Like, what if I didn't know this about her? Right. And I've been rooting for her still, like trying to block, like, okay, forget that she's hooking up with Sandoval. How would I feel about her in this moment if I didn't have that info? Right. And in this one episode now, it's hard to be on her side because it's like if you did not realize what you were doing was wrong, you think that there would have been a lot of things happening right now making you realize what you're doing is wrong, specifically this situation.
Right.
If this Oliver situation did not make her have like a light bulb go off, like, you know what? Look how hurt this wife got in this situation with Oliver and it was just a freaking makeout and I thought they were separated. If that did not make you realize you were doing something a lot worse, you're a disgusting person. Because like maybe she didn't realize that what she was doing was so horribly wrong, but this would have been the moment to make you realize like I should not be hooking up with Sandoval either.
Yeah.
Because somebody else is going to end up getting really hurt and somebody you're friends with, not some stranger that you don't know.
I feel like Sandoval kind of manipulated her
I do
lot
too, because
to make her think like, oh, we're not in a good spot. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
gonna break up with
I
her.
do
We'll
too.
be fine.
And
it's, I mean, she needs to think on her own, but you know what? Like when you're in that type of moment and this person's telling you like, oh, it's not working. I'm trying to move on.
Not out of the question for her because we kind of saw it with James. Like we saw a lot of red flags with her and James and she
Yeah.
just kept like being with him and staying with him until she couldn't take it anymore. So it is obvious that she's probably easily manipulated and it's obvious that she gets her sense of self-worth from like what people think of her.
Yeah.
And I think that Sandoval, he's good at making people feel good when he wants to.
Yeah.
You know?
He definitely
We've seen
sometimes
him.
has
Yeah,
a way
well,
with
with
words.
Ariana, we've seen him in the past when they were in a better place, him being very empathetic and sweet and there for her. We haven't seen that lately, But, we know that he can have that side to him.
So the next scene, everybody is arriving at Lala's party, and Katie shows up with her satchel. Um, I don't know, dude. Like, what is up with this guy? The high water pants. Did you see his belt hanging down in front of his pants like he's in the 90s? Like,
Yeah.
we used to do that in like the early 90s. And I
The
never,
grunge era, that
yeah,
was like a thing, yeah.
like instead of tucking your belt in, you would just let it hang down the
Oh
front.
my God, please get into what Sheena said because that's exactly what I was thinking. She took the words directly from my brain.
She's kind of like making fun of him a little bit, and she says he looks like he just got groomed at Vanderpump Dogs.
Yes.
I am
All right.
dead when she said that.
And listen, I thought the same thing with his little poodle haircut
Yeah.
because I am a hairstylist. That is my thing. So I hate to sound shallow or vain, but the first thing I do is look at what someone looks like, especially when it comes to your hair.
But they're in LA. And like this guy is like that's his image.
Yeah, I am
just
not getting
awkward.
it. And him and Katie didn't look super into each other either.
Oh, he's super into Katie, but
You think?
Well, yeah, he was trying to like lean over and like kiss her.
I don't
and
know.
He said like whispering to her.
I saw him doing that.
She was not really
I saw
it.
him doing it, but I did not see a spark.
I don't know. She said she came for the D and
Stayed for the conversation.
Stayed for the conversation. I mean, I guess the D was good enough.
I guess she does like nerdy guys.
She does.
But I wasn't picturing that type of nerd. I was picturing more of like a hipster nerd. Not like an actual nerd. Like he looks like he lives in his mom's basement and plays Atari.
Yeah. So they kind of gave us this little piece of like snippet, I guess. A
little golden nugget.
A little nugget. And then they cut right over to Raquel and Oliver where they're meeting up for their dates.
Again, this did not go well.
Didn't go well. And
I was proud of her in this moment. And that's why I'm like, God, like you realize how wrong this was.
And Oliver must have known like she was going to say something, or he just
he's like, I don't know if you saw, there's a lot of stuff going on with the internet. I mean, I'm pretty sure his wife tagged her in stories.
Right.
So if he saw that she tagged Raquel in stories, I know that he knows that she saw.
He needs to come.
And she's like, yeah, and she admits it. Like she had a conversation with Samantha. That's her name, right? I think Samantha.
I think.
And and she's like, she told me like the night after we made out that you went home and like slept with her, and he said he did not, but he looked like he was freaking lying.
He said he's like, oh well, maybe
it was a couple of days later. And you know what? It doesn't matter. And she goes, well, don't you think
matter.
that's probably confusing for her and like leading her on? And he's like, yeah, like I didn't handle it appropriately and I didn't make like the best decisions. And he's like, and I understand if like you don't want to. And she's like, yeah, I don't. And she leaves.
Yeah, she
gets
this
whole
up and
thing.
Leaves.
And this is why I'm pissed at her, because you see her being acknowledgeable of this woman's feelings and how wrong this situation is, and it was just a makeout.
Right.
We're not talking about multiple hangouts. We are not talking about like sleeping together. We are not talking about like an ongoing thing. And this is where I got so pissed off. And also because this segues into, she calls Sheena and wants to know if they're still at this restaurant for Lala's birthday. And she's like, I need to talk to Lala. I already know where this was going with the title Mistress in Distress, because she kept calling Lala a mistress, and now she's being called a mistress. So I'm like, oh, she's going to want to have a conversation and apologize.
Yeah.
And that again, how wrong is that, where she's even acknowledging how bad she feels for calling Lala a mistress and how easy it is to be in that situation, and then finding herself again being a mistress with Sandoval. So it's like, that's why I'm like, how hard do we have to beat you over the head for you to get it? Like, you can't pick and choose when the situation's okay. Right. It's never okay. And if this was not the defining moment for her, then that's it for her. She's donezo for me. We're going back to Kristen Cavallari. My car is donezo. Raquel is donezo in my eyes. I was still kind of rooting for her, still trying to separate my feelings about the affair to like how would I just authentically feel about her in this moment. And for me, it's done. This is it. This episode was it for me, for her and Sandoval, because Sandoval just seems so evil, conniving, and skeezy in this episode in every single scene, even with Schwartz. Like those scenes, like I hated him in every scene. So I feel like we are starting to see those true colors. And from here on out, we're going to see them.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you said it. Raquel is heading over to this party to talk to Lala, and she gets there, and I love Lala's reaction as soon as Raquel
What's
walked
up,
up.
Mistress? Hey, Mistress. Like, that's me. And I hate Lala because I feel like she's so trash sometimes. But like the way she handled that 100% is what I would have done. So I
Yeah.
didn't hate her for it.
But
I
she
would
did
have.
give her the time of day, which was cool.
They
Like the
had a
conversation
moment.
that they had was a really good
Well,
conversation.
yeah, and I was actually surprised with
I
Lala
was.
in that moment, and I liked her in that moment. Like, she actually said, like, you're not a mistress, and these guys are manipulative, and they tell you one thing and that's not what's going on, and don't let people call you that. And like, they hugged it out,
Right.
and it felt good. But this moment between Katie and Tom is
Yeah.
what I need to get to.
So while they're out there talking.
So we're going to go back. Remember this comment that Allie made to James about how she thinks she might have started something, mentioning seeing Tom and Raquel at the Abbey. So Katie takes it and runs with it.
Oh, yeah.
And she's having this convo with Sandoval. And she's like, what did she say? She mentions it. She just says it, right?
Yeah, she just says something about like,
because it's okay for you to be at the Abbey with Raquel at like 1 o'clock in the morning or something. And he's
Yeah.
like, oh, get like enough of that narrative. Like, what is that narrative?
he's
That's
just
what
trying
that
to like
makes me.
dismiss it.
But he said he wasn't just like, oh, like don't talk about that. He said like that's enough of that narrative. Didn't he say something like that? I got the feeling that this wasn't the first time it's been brought up to him. Because
Possibly.
it felt like
He seemed annoyed.
he was like this again.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it felt like that. And like, so going back, was that they were there after Vegas, right? That was boys' night at the Abbey. No, that was the Mondrian.
The Abbey is somewhere
Oh,
else.
see,
I
was
don't think we
thinking
saw this
because
on the
no,
show.
so this is okay. So I had that wrong. So no, I'm wrong then because I was sitting here thinking, oh, was this the night after Vegas? And because I think that was the one night stand that Schwartz was talking about,
Right.
the Mondrian, and that I was connecting these two. So this is a separate incident.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe that's why he was annoyed because I think like maybe that one night stand thing kind of came out and then he just tried to play it off as a one time thing. But I'm wrong. So this is a whole other situation that he seems like he's sick of hearing about. Yeah. It's the vibe I got. He didn't say like I'm sick of hearing about this, but it seemed like he was like enough of this narrative. But maybe that was because of the Mondrian. Maybe that got brought up, and maybe like.
Well, I mean, people are probably starting to approach him now.
I think enough situations have happened, and enough people have
Exactly.
probably seen something. Because, like I said, it's like even if it's not someone in the friend group, people see it all the time. Like people have taken videos of Justin Timberlake being inappropriate towards women out drunk places, like without Jessica Biel. So it's like it could be a fan.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like people have probably seen things. So I think I was just getting the vibe that he was so annoyed, and he just seemed like such a dick in this. You could tell, like
He
the
had
guilt
that,
is
like,
written
Joker
all
smile.
over. Yes, and the guilt is written all over his face.
Oh yeah.
You know,
You
like
could
it's
definitely
very
see.
obvious that he's guilty, and it's very obvious he's so pissed off at Katie for even mentioning it. So then that was really it, right? That's it.
The episode ended with Lala and Raquel like hugging it out.
Yeah.
And yeah, Lala told her, she said, you, my friend, are not a mistress, and don't let anyone tell you that you are. But she still is.
Yep. So let us know how you felt about this. I really wasn't expecting to see Sandoval so many times in this episode, but I'm glad I did because I really picked up on the shift in the air. Like it was just between him and Raquel in this episode, just flat out started hating both of them.
Yeah. And it's gonna explode a little bit more in the next few episodes. So I'm excited
I think
to
the
see what's coming up
reunion,
next.
I want to say the reunion airs like May 24th or something like that.
Okay.
So we're very close.
Yeah.
To wrapping this whole thing up. And I know y'all saw this picture of Sandoval out and about on the town with Billy Lee. I know you did. Billy Lee has not been on the show for a while. Now, let me just say this. I am a huge advocate for the LGBTQ community. I am very big in being supportive. and inclusive to absolutely everybody. That is a community that is very near and dear to my heart. So I have nothing against Billie Lee for being trans at all, but Billie Lee is 100% a douche and a clout chaser. And it has nothing to do with her being trans, but it has everything to do with her personality. And she said for the past couple years that she hates everybody on Vanderpump Rules and wants nothing to do with it. And it's like, man, you did not waste any time being ready to film scenes with Sandoval next season, did you?
Yeah.
And we know no one's going to be on Sandoval's side, you know? So, like, I think he's literally grasping at straws right now. Like, who can I get to hang out with me? And it also sucks because Billie, like, Ariana was always a huge advocate for Billie Lee.
Yeah.
Always stuck up for her because Jax
always
hated
did.
her. And again, oh man, I hate to say Jax called it, but Jax called it years ago. He said, like, because everyone was giving him heat because he's made some comments and he's done some things in the past that have seemed a bit homophobic. So when he hated Billie Lee, everybody assumed it was because Billie Lee was trans. And he flat out said, I don't care. Like, I'm half naked in the Pride Parade every year. I have nothing against her for being who she is. I have everything against her for her personality and who she is as a person. And I'm like, damn, Jax was right. Because the second, and listen, I've never like, I thought she was a little bit annoying, but I didn't dislike her.
Right.
I thought she was a clout chaser.
I mean, I didn't see enough of her in those episodes. That was a few seasons
She
ago.
would do like drag brunches at Sir and stuff, and they were cool. Like, it seemed cool, but I definitely always felt like she was a clout chaser. And that is solidified seeing these pictures with Sandoval. And if you haven't seen them, look at them because the Joker smile is present.
Oh, yeah.
My God, how evil did he look? You know what? Let's just insert the picture right here.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to make you look for it. Here they are hanging out. So I am just going to put this out there you heard it here first. Billie Lee will be on the next season. Because nobody is going to film with Sandoval.
I wonder if Sandoval's going to be on the next season.
He will. Bravo is not going to waste this opportunity to have this many people tuning in.
But I mean, how much are they going to have him?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
On?
Look at all the stuff Jax did, and they just still put him there.
Yeah.
Like, with everybody. They hated him all the time. It was only until he made racially insensitive comments online that he got taken off the show. It was never for how he was on the show.
Right.
So Sandoval will still be on there, but I know, like, they've all said they don't want to film with him. So we'll see how that goes down.
Yeah.
So I guess his scenes will be with Billie Lee and Billie Lee only. Thanks for listening, guys. Tell us what you think, and we will see you on the next episode of The Show This.
Adios.